2025 is the 10-year anniversary of Hamilton. Generally, I'm on the Tea and Tales podcast Instagram most of the time, and then I would go to my author Instagram as well. My author page is more like people I like to follow and like, your more casual type of stuff. And naturally, musical theatre. Literally last night while I was like going through reels, like it was just Hamilton, 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 Hamilton. It made me think because I've been thinking about this for such a long time, not just because I want to sing, but because I feel, words have such a big impact on you, and just an idea of something can give you an entire story. Hamilton is not even my favorite musical, but there's like one piece of the musical that just keeps like stuck in my head, and it is from the song Quiet Uptown. I can say the words to you, Sarah, but I feel it won't have the same impact unless I sing it to you. So here I go. I don't pretend to know the challenges we're facing. I know there's no replacing what we've lost, and you need time, but I'm not afraid. I know who I marry. Just let me stay here by your side. That will be enough. And every time that I listen to that, like, I just start crying. It is so beautiful. It literally, like, it tells an entire story.
That's the joy of being a storyteller. You can use words that say things that most people can't put into words. You know what I mean? And so it's like it touches the reader, it touches the listener because it is so much truth and purity in the words. Today I went with a basic mango with pear and mango and apple, and it's really, really good.
I take your fruit and I match it with a passion fruit and cranberry tea. It smells delicious. And today I have with me a cook sister. Just look at this deliciousness.
Oh, that looks amazing.
Oh my god, it is amazing.
Is it soft or is it a crunchy?
The perfect cook sister is crunchy on the outside, and then on the inside, it's like soft and juicy and chewy.
Now I'm just a little bit jealous, but people will know what Nell's doing while I'm rambling today.
You hear a crunch every now and then, that's me. Are we ready for this episode?
I am ready.
Hey ho, let's go. Hello, and welcome to Tea and Tales. We are so happy to have you here. I'm Madeleine Einal.
And I'm Sarah Sampson. We especially want to thank Lisa Metzgar and Kathy Hewlett for joining us and commenting on our social medias, listening to our podcast. We appreciate all of our listeners. Today, we're going to be talking about how to turn an idea into a story. So I feel like people have ideas all the time, but it's taking it and making it into something cohesive and fun to read for a reader is the challenge.
I think also you can have an idea, but then you're like, oh wait, it needs to be a novel. And like a novel has 80,000 words. Then you kind of just go overwhelmed and you're like, no, this idea can't possibly fill like 300 pages. And so I think we decided to do this topic because so many people have ideas and they're very good ideas, but they just don't know how to take those ideas and put them on paper and form that story.
So we're going to throw out some of our ideas and things for you to think about while you are planning. Obviously, like we say in pretty much every episode, you need to find what works for you. So don't take anything we're saying as gospel or the only way to do it. But here's some ideas in case you haven't thought of them, things that have helped us or that we've found has helped other people that we know. So the first thing I think we need to talk about is the struggle of forming a story that is different between pantsers and planners and all the people in between. Because when you are a pantser like myself, it can really kill the inspiration if you are overplanned or if you spend too much time trying to figure out every little point in the novel. But then there's other people who, if they don't have a zero draft, which is basically every chapter planned out and how it's going to work and what plot points need to go where, the twists, the turns, before they actually write all that out, then you're going to immediately be unable to write your idea into a story. So it's always the first important thing to find out. If you are a planner, there is a lot of work to do before you actually get into the story. And if you are a pantser, you still have to do that same work, but it comes later.
Yeah. And I also think it depends on what your genre is. Because if you write something like historical fiction, you will have to do the research beforehand to be able to know your accuracy of that era that you are writing about, and about the people and about the way of living and all those things. Because we watch multiple series on Netflix or HBO or I don't know, wherever you find your TV shows, and they kind of give us an idea of certain eras, I almost want to say. So for example, like Outlander or Vikings or something like that, they kind of give you an idea of like what those people wore, what they ate, what the almost want to say etiquette was of that era. But then yes, you can take that as an idea, but you need to have that foundation of you need to know exactly what happened in those times and in those places for that idea to form properly, I almost want to say.
And to make sure that you're hitting your target audience and all of the tropes, all of the plot points that go into that specific genre, because your readers are going to know what's supposed to be there and they will know if you're missing something.
Well, here's the thing. It sounds all very flowery and all very like, okay, thank you very much for telling me that I need to know my genre and all these other things. But you're not telling me if I've an idea, how does it turn into a story? And so I think the best thing that you can possibly do is write. And I love this little quote from the author Catherine Rundle, because she says, allow yourself to write badly. And I think that sometimes stops people from starting to write. Even if it's just an idea, even if it's just a scene that you saw in a movie and you're like, oh my goodness, that is like a brilliant idea that I can take and I want to make it my own. Like if you don't write it down, there's nothing that you can be working from. I don't know about you, Sarah, but I have learned, like, when you write things down, like when you study for exams and stuff like that, when you write it down, it's a different form of learning and it's a different form of your brain taking in information. And so it's one thing to have this idea in your head. It's a completely different thing to take that idea, take a pen and paper and write it down. Because when you do that, other ideas start forming as you are writing. I found this brilliant author. Her name is Gillian McAllister. And if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, my bad. And so she made this little reel where she said, 10 steps to write a novel. And I loved what she said there because it's not like impossible goals to reach. It's very simplistic and I think anybody can do that. And so she said, like, number one, your idea should be pitchable in one line. And I think that is very important because what writers need to remember is like when you query, you have to have a one-line picture for your novel.
The Save the Cat podcast, their very first episode, and I remember it clearly because it's what got me to be like, I have to listen to this. He talked about how if you don't have a one-line pitch for your idea, you don't know if your idea is good. And then he said he would always, before he wrote everything out, he would always take that one-line pitch and pitch it to his friends, pitch it to his family, and see if they went, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. Or if they went, okay, but what? Then he would know if something was wrong in his one-line pitch. He either didn't understand what he was trying to do good enough, or the risk he was trying to take in the story wasn't landing. So definitely make sure you've got that one-line pitch and that knowledge of what you're going to do. And my pantsers are going to yell and scream, but I don't like doing that. I want to just free write and see what happens. I get it. Maybe your one-line pitch comes halfway through writing. Maybe you figure it out when you finish that first draft, but you eventually need to do that. And if you just enjoy writing for writing's sake, go ahead, write out the whole thing. But you need to be able to put it into the one-line pitch to ensure the idea is viable.
And side note, it is such a great way for when someone comes up to you and they're like, oh my gosh, you wrote a book. What is it about? You know how many times I'm just staring at them. I'm like, I don't know, what is my book about? And if you have that one line, bitch, then you're like, wow, da-da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, bam. So this brings me to my second step that you take. And it says, make a plan. Start with the beginning. That central hook should be a question. What comes next? What is the next logical scene? And try to have in mind 3 or 4 large plot points along the way. Fill in your plot with breadcrumbs, between large plot points leading to your end.
That is a mouthful, let me tell you that. Anybody who just listened to that is probably going, what point? This, that, what? Not only do you need to have a grand idea, an overall idea, each of the plot points, each of the hooks blends together in a logical sequence. If something jumps out randomly, unexpectedly, your reader's going to get whiplash. They're going to put down that book. So definitely make sure that you have filled in that plot, that little things and big things all melt together, that you have tracked those plot points through. It reminds me of a seminar that I took with a guy about plotting, and I was reviewing those notes this morning, and I wish so badly that I could remember his name, but the seminar was called Plot Magic. He talked about how you have to be able to map out all those points in your book and how the subplots and main plots are weaving together so that they're all flowing. And I feel like that's the same thing she's saying here.
I will connect it to Save the Cat because, as we mentioned in our writing tools that we love, Save the Cat is a great foundation for you to find those beats that you need to be able to tell your story.
So the next point in her reel was to write the first draft. I feel like that in and of itself should be a no-brainer to everybody. But it goes with Marion Kay's quote, "There's no wrong way to write a book. The only wrong way to write a book is to not actually write it. Sit down, write. Go ahead and get those words out. There will be no book until you put words down."
The next step that she says is use the knowledge from the first draft to inform your second draft. Like what worked, what didn't work, what felt icky to you, what felt really good to you. And when you are able to distinguish those different parts of it, she goes into the next steps to formulate a new plan based on that knowledge.
And then write your second draft. Because a draft can't improve until you write. I don't know how many times I could say that.
What?
After you've analyzed, after you figured out what's working, what's not working, what you want to change, you've written out your notes. Our friend Claire, she makes herself a list of, I need to change this, I need to change that, I need to include this more, blah, blah, blah. And then she just goes through that list, getting into her second draft. I also found out the other day, and I'm so excited to use this, Pro Writing Aid has a feature now where you can tell it to analyze your entire manuscript, and it will go through and summarize the plot points, summarize the main characters. It'll summarize what it understands of the secondary and tertiary characters, your antagonist. It will analyze all of your inciting incidents and things and tell you what's working and what's not working according to its algorithm. And I want to try it because on the book that I'm beta reading right now, she had sent me that report. And she said, I know there's things in here I need to change, but if you keep in mind, if you can go in and look at what it's saying to change and keep those in mind, I'd love it if you could mark places where you see that falling flat so that I can find it better. And it was mind-blowing how accurate it was to the feelings I was getting as a reader going through the novel. So as she's going into that next draft, she can take all of that information and be able to make it into a next draft that she doesn't feel like she was just floundering around like you do when you're first writing.
I love that idea that she has, because that's probably why I love my beta group, because when we share our pages with each other and they give me feedback, they will specify certain places where they don't feel stuff, or certain places that they felt weren't strong enough or wasn't convincing or felt flat or something like that. And that's what I need, because if someone just says it's not working, I'm like, okay, how isn't it working? Like, what are you missing? What feelings aren't being evoked inside of you? And so it's so nice that Pro Writing Aid is doing that, because you are a writer, you're so close to your own work. So then to be able to have, I almost want to say, that external view of your novel, and then you can actually see what is missing, is really helpful. So when you've written that second draft, what do we do, Sarah? Put your novel away, let it take a breather. But in that time that you are putting that novel away, think about your characters. Think about who they are. Sarah has said multiple times how she does it. She would be cooking and she's like, ooh, how would my character be cooking that? I've never in my life even thought about that with my characters. I'm just like cooking. I'm like, I don't even think about that. I wish I was thinking about that. And I sometimes think maybe I should be more observant when I'm doing natural tasks and like just entwine my characters in my everyday tasks that I do. But yes, think about your characters and create all that depth that you want for your character. Because then for the next one is you do line editing. And with line editing or draft for prose is where you do those singular add-ons, where you take away all the telling and put in showing, where you show the character's feelings instead of just telling them to us, etc.
All of those things can come in that last step. You do not have to feel like you're doing that when you're writing a first draft. If you do, if that comes naturally to you, mwah, congratulations, that's beautiful. If not, don't get stuck up on it, because you will get the chance to make your words beautiful later. Just put down the idea and make sure those plots work first. Having said all of that, I want you to keep those things in mind while we talk about this next part, because I was able to take a seminar from romance author Mary Beckham, and she gave a 5-step formula to making sure your book is well plotted.
How you are the fantasy writer, yet you are attending a romance author seminar.
Say, plotting is plotting, right? It's just the way it goes. So without copying her entire 5-day seminar, I'm telling you guys, was way more information that she gave us than I could possibly give to you right now. But I am going to put on the show notes the link to a website that she helped co-create. And there's a lot of resources there for creating your drafts. So if you're interested in hearing more about it, go there and take their full courses, because it was amazing. She says that step 1 is to choose a character. Who are they? Who's your heroine or your hero? Who's your protagonist and your antagonist? But choose just one. My fantasy writers are going to scream right now and be like, but I have a cast and I have like 5 main people. Okay, calm down, calm down. I understand. I write the same way. You need to choose one, the one that drives the story the most. They are the one that you need to focus on in this step. Once you've picked that character, then you need to dig into what is the main internal driving force of that character. For romance, she discussed that driving force being, what is it about their past that is then causing them to distrust love or distrust people or whatever it is that they're struggling with. For me, with my fantasy, it looked more like, what does my character's core desire and what is keeping them from fulfilling it? Because that is the plot line for that main character that needs to go through the entire novel, that is going to need to come out, then be challenged, then be resolved. It is going to be that core that people cling on to and why they love your character. If you cannot pin that down, then it's going to be difficult to write them through the challenges of the plot that you are trying to do. The second point that she had us do was to identify the inciting incident. What is your inciting incident in one sentence? Remember when we talked about earlier, you need to put your whole novel in one sentence? Well, we're doing that again with each of these points. One sentence about your character, one sentence about your inciting incident and what it's doing, and clarify what choice that protagonist has to make with that inciting incident.
I love and hate this at the same time, because I feel one-line pitches are like queer letter blurbs. I hate it with a passion. I'm like, but once you get that perfect line and once you get that perfect blurb, then you're just like, it's just brilliant. But I love the way that you explain how she explained it, because it is very important for you to know your character well enough and your story well enough to be able to put that in one line. Says the one who doesn't have a one-liner, but okay.
We can always fix that. But what I love about her telling us do it in one sentence is a lot of times we want to write a whole paragraph about it, and we miss the essence. You miss the essence of what the point actually is. So then she goes forward, and her next few things is basically doing the same thing, building off that inciting incident with each of the plot points, with your turning point, with your resolution that you want to be able. Now, she did say with the turning point that you can use 2 sentences. So,
you.
lucky you. But that each of those points, main turning points and the midpoint, all of those things, make sure you can say in one sentence what happens, why they have to make a decision, because that's going to give you the character development, that's going to give you the plot development, it's going to make sure those little plot points are lining up with each other. But then she threw a little bit of a curveball. She said there is a moment where you have your black moment of the story. This is that point where everything, every inciting incident, everything's building up to that climactic moment where something goes so terribly wrong that your protagonist has to change and they have to do something different. This is your main twist point. It's usually about 3/4 through your novel. And she said for romance, it could be something like something happens between the couple that makes them have to face all of those fears that they've been carrying through the novel and decide what they're going to do about this person in front of them who just made them face all those fears. For fantasy, it often turns into that big battle moment where everything's gone wrong and they need to reevaluate how they're approaching the problem. So you need to be able to take that black moment and decide what the change is your character is going to make, that character arc line that addresses the black moment and leads them to a resolution.
How many sentences can I have with that one?
She said 2.
Thank you. Thank you. She never said how long each sentence can be, though.
Well, yeah, she said like try to keep it under 50 words, you know. Try not to do a terrible run-on sentence, really zone in. Then the last step that she talks about is at the end of the novel to evaluate questions about the novel itself. Have you resolved your secondary storylines and subplots? Have you answered the outstanding questions? Have you shown change compared to the beginning of the novel? And have you made certain that others are impacted by the changes?
I love that the 2 resources that we have been talking about, even though they're so different from each other, they basically say the same thing, which means we aren't lying, okay? Like, this is a great way to turn your idea into a story.
It's just different questions, I think, that they asked and different ways that they said it to get those wheels turning into thinking about these things in your book. And whether you do it during your 0 draft and make sure everything works together and then write, or whether you write everything and then go back and analyze, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Whatever gets you in the seat and excited and putting down your story, that's the way to do it.
Well, I hope that you have gotten an idea or that this episode have helped you to formulate a plan as to how to turn that idea that you have in your head into the story that you want to tell. These resources that we've shared are short and sweet, and I think they can absolutely help you get on the right path. But I think, and I will quote it again, Marianne Keyes, there's no wrong way to write a book. The only wrong way to write a book is to not actually write it.
We like to keep things short here on Tea and Tales. Get your fingers back on the keyboard and your pens back on paper.
If you like what we are doing here and you love the topics that we are discussing and the guests that we have on, go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Tea and Tales Podcast, and on Twitter/X and TikTok at Podcast Tea Tales. And go to that purple icon on your device and give us 5 stars and share with us what novel writing ideas has helped you take that idea and turn it into the story that you want to turn it. And then you can help us up, it's a moment.
Happy writing.
Bye.